Hello, and welcome back to Body Beyond the Scales, the podcast that helps you get stronger and more confident in your body through building better habits. Now, this is a very special episode as we have a returning guest to talk about something completely different to what we spoke about last time. But first off, Laura, welcome back.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Yeah, it seems like a while ago since we did the last one,
Yeah, I
but
think it was about
obviously,
18 months ago.
yeah, that's wild, isn't it? I feel like, yeah, I can't even remember. Was it about? Did we talk about the gym in that? I think was it confidence and gym?
We
I
either
think
spoke
that
about
was it.
confidence or emotional eating. It was one of them.
Kind of cover the same area, really, don't they?
Yeah, it's good to have you back on. Today we're going to be talking about postnatal, prenatal, natal, and yeah, if you enjoy the dropping of T's in there, as we seem to not have, both Laura and I have got a northern accent and a Yorkshire accent at that. So be prepared that this is going to be the most Yorkshire sounding episode that there is of the podcast. But yeah, Laura, do you want to give us a bit of a rundown, I guess, of who are you?
Who are you exactly? Who am I? Yeah, I feel bad actually. I usually have like a cup of Yorkshire tea, and my mug is empty. Still, I'm letting the squad down. Must remember that next time. So yeah, I am Laura. I am a women's online coach. I work with women both. Helping them get confident in and out the gym, feel strong, feel good in their bodies, and yeah, build those good habits for life.
Amazing. And what is, I guess, your experience with like pre and postnatal? Because this is a bit of like a
Mm,
an area that like isn't necessarily spoken about too much when you are just like qualifying as a like PT. So I guess like
mhm.
what experience have you had with like pre and postnatal?
Absolutely. So I think, like, obviously, I only work with women. I've only ever worked with women. I think I've coached one man in my life and I did not like it. So I was like, no, just going to work with women from now on. And yeah, I think, like, obviously, for, many women, I know obviously some women choose not to have children and, may not be able to have children, but many women may obviously come, at one point in their life be faced with being either pre or postnatal. And obviously, once you've had children, you are postnatal forever. Like, there's obviously changes that happen in your body that kind of mean that, things do change long term. And I think that it's just, it was always important for me to kind of address that. And I think there's also like a rise, I don't know if you've noticed in a minute, of like the fitness space of like PTs or people who have had a baby and then they suddenly like, I am pre and postnatal and they've no qualifications or anything, but they think because they've had a baby and they've been to the gym whilst
They've
having
had
a
a baby and
baby.
they took folic acid and like they're like ding ding ding
Yeah.
ding ding did it.
Like I've won life. I know how to coach everybody now. And it's like, there's a lot more to it than that. And, there's a lot more to consider rather than, oh, my pregnancy was great and my pregnancy was fabulous, because that is not the case for everybody's. And I think it's obviously been an important thing that's really helped me. And I think like the big thing that we'll probably go into later is like a lot of the psychological changes that can affect you, in pregnancy, and postnatal as well, which, can affect things. So yeah, I think it's a really important time. And I think that it's also a really good thing to be coached through, because a lot of women will think that, you know, I am pregnant, wrap me in cotton wool, I cannot do anything. Like, how dare you go to the gym? It's that thing of like, we forget that, hundreds of thousands of years ago or whatever, like women were literally like chasing animals, with spears, right until giving birth. And like, it's that I think we're moving away from it a lot more now. And we're starting to recognize that, like, I think there was a woman who, I don't know if it was like the recent Olympics or something, and she was like fencing at like 7 months pregnant. And I was like, oh, it's cool, isn't it? Like, that is cool. And I don't know if you follow CrossFit, but we've seen like tier two may train right up until like giving birth and things like that. And it just goes to show that like you do not have to be wrapped in cotton wool and not able to do anything. Like, you are not ill. You are simply pregnant. And it does not have to mean that life has to stop. There's just a few adjustments that have to be made.
Yeah, and I think that's like a really good probably will summarize the entire episode of like life doesn't have to stop. You just have to make a
Mm,
couple of adjustments to make sure that like you are yeah, you're in a good position. So I
mhm.
guess let's start off in that like where like you're at that point and you're thinking, oh, maybe babies are on the horizon. What's the kind of what are the things to start thinking about? Maybe even before you start trying to get pregnant.
hmm So I think obviously, like if it's thing of you want to try and get pregnant, then I think it's like obviously take your folic acid, prep yourself well, but also like be of that mentality of you want to be like the healthiest version of yourself throughout that pregnancy, and the focus very much changes throughout pregnancy. I mean, I do have, or have had some clients in the past who have come to me after being like, I've been pregnant and, my GP's told me I need to do Slimming World. And I'm like, oh, cry me a river. Like, wow, this is still happening. And yeah, I know like it's difficult, especially when that focus will switch, but when you want to be pregnant, like the goal is not to be your smallest person in the world. It's not to be going for like 1 rep maxes in the gym and trying to run. I know like you can run, and keep your lifestyle going, but like the goals from like trying to be in a fat loss phase, trying to be obviously like, wanting to set loads of PBs and trying to run a half marathon at your best time in the world, like that, it does need to change a little bit to recognizing that the focus has shifted. And I think psychologically that can be a difficult thing to do as well. But I think the biggest thing to be aware of is like, of course, you are going to see changes throughout, but you want to be the healthiest person that you can, and being active throughout all the way through your pregnancy can lower the risk of like gestational diabetes, lower back pain, excessive weight gain. And there's nothing to say that if you do exercise and do all things right throughout pregnancy that you'll have a fabulous miraculous birth and it will be amazing. But if it can lower the chances, then it's like absolutely, why would you not want to do that?
For sure. There was one thing that I saw the other day. It was either a TikTok or an Instagram reel, but it was someone saying that they were like training for pregnancy, and they were showing like how like active they were, and the fact that they were getting themselves like fit, and like her and her, I assume, husband were like
Mhm.
getting like making sure that they were like in fit and healthy bodies. And I think it's really underestimated the power of like how being fit and healthy and having healthy habits
Mhm.
like actually can impact the like quality of your pregnancy and how smooth it runs. Like
Yeah.
obviously there will always be other factors that influence it. Don't get me wrong, saying like if you are fit and
Mhm.
active, you will have a complete smooth pregnancy, but like it
Mhm.
definitely influences it.
Exactly. Like, would you not want to make things the best that you can and try to reduce as many risks as you can? Like, of course you would, wouldn't you? You'd rather, and like set yourself up as well. I know that mentally a lot of women can do the thing of, oh, I'm pregnant, gonna eat for two. Like that is a massive misconception. Like one of the biggest myths is that you need to eat for two. Like you absolutely don't. And it can be used as a bit of an excuse of right now I just need to put my feet up and like we say wrap ourselves in cotton wool, but it's not about that. It's like actually if you can learn to manage training and eating well, and not from a matter of like eating in a deficit and trying to eat as little as possible, but actually eat as much protein as possible. Protein is a building block of every cell in your body, every cell in a baby's body, and that's something that's really important, like getting your fiber in to help control, like there's a lot of hormonal changes that go on obviously, and they can affect like your gut, digestion, toileting, and things like that, which can obviously be uncomfortable. And if you can actually think about getting more in your diet in terms of like more fiber to help that, it's like, would you not rather feel your best and help to alleviate some of them symptoms rather than feeling rubbish and feeling miserable the whole way through? And that's the big thing, isn't it? It's like doing something for yourself, because trying to fix that after a baby has come and you're not sleeping and you're hungry, and all these things, it's harder, isn't it? It's going to be harder.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Like I think going into having a small child is going to be a very busy time, very sleep deprived
Mhm.
time. So if you can get yourself in the best condition possible, that's only going to be advantageous for you down the line. So yeah, it's
Mhm.
well worth doing.
Exactly, exactly that. And I mean, there's other things as well, like obviously when we talk about like the different trimesters, so obviously things do change as you go out throughout pregnancy. And, like the first trimester is very much like you just have to see how you feel, because that's the time when morning sickness and things, they call it morning sickness, but it's pretty much all day sickness from what I've seen with most of my clients, which does not sound fun. But there's actually like research that shows that sickness alleviates when you train. So when you go to the gym, that can help to stop the symptoms of feeling sick and nauseous all the time and like that hungover feeling. So actually, like, the scientific evidence does back up that exercise can manage that. And, it releases the endorphins that help your digestion and can reduce your stress and improve circulation, which will actually help you to feel better. So I think it's that thing of like, even though you may feel a bit rubbish, and there's got to be like a scale or a spectrum of how rubbish do you feel. Like, yeah, if you are literally bed bound and sicking up your guts, then of course you're not gonna push yourself to go and exercise, are you? But it's like if you are just a bit lousy, oh, I feel a bit, but I'm not. I could go, right? If I told myself, oh, I'm not going to exercise, if I'll listen to my body, it might be a bit of a cop out. And if you know that going and exercising is going to help, then it's like, yeah, do it because it's going to set you up for better for the day, isn't it? And it's things like that, isn't it? Like not getting in that mindset of just thinking, feel crap, just going to slob on the sofa all day and feel even worse about it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like that's probably the best way to like phrase it is doing what you can do,
Hmm.
like during that time. And if you are feeling like constantly sick, then it might not be that you're about to go start training for a marathon. But like what you might be doing is able to go out and get some steps in and get yourself out for a nice walk.
Hmm.
Like it's about doing like something that feels appropriate to how you feel in your body.
Exactly that. And that's like we talk about, it's like, there's no like one size fits all advice. And if that even goes for like, out of the pre and postnatal space as well, doesn't it? Because we all kind of respond to things a bit differently. Everyone's lifestyle's a bit different. And the same, when you are pregnant, it's like you've got to go with how you're feeling. And there's no like blanket advice. Like in terms of changing things up when you train, it's like, especially first trimester, you can pretty much keep things the same as long as you're not like, super dizzy and like trying to do single leg squats or whatever and falling over, then, you're all right to keep going. And of course, it's not thinking about doing one rep maxes and knocking yourself out and, doing a Valsalva maneuver and go, and, knocking yourself out. But it's just about recognizing that it's good to keep moving your body and strength training is important for you because as well, like something that does happen in pregnancy is muscle mass reduces, fat mass increases, and the best that we can do to help balance that out. Like we know how important muscle is. We know how as women we need to grip onto that for as long as we can and train for our old lady bodies. And if you can you know, stop that muscle loss through pregnancy, then why would you not want to? Of course you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think that's like really important. Like, and on that, let's talk about training. So, like, I guess let's say we're in those early stages, and you are somewhere between trimester 1 and trimester 2. We're in kind of like that zone. Let's start off in trimester 1 to keep it nice and easy. What are the like training considerations to like think about? So, like, oh, we found out we're pregnant. Like, let's go.
Just go into the same workouts you're doing before, basically. The most important thing is like, and the research has actually changed. It used to be like, but so I did a pre and postnatal qualification ages ago, and then I've done one more recently because it's always good, isn't it, to keep updated in the fitness space. We know what it's like. There's always new
It
evidence and
changes.
studies coming out.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, of course it does. So it's important to recognize that like it used to be like if you don't weightlift, if you don't train, then don't suddenly start it in pregnancy. That advice has now changed and it's actually that it's okay to start in pregnancy, which I think is wonderful because it's like, obviously you're not gonna go in just starting out like deadlifting your body weight, are you, if you've never trained before? But like going in and doing like body weight exercises and like just getting into the groove of the gym and doing like some machines and things that you feel comfortable with, like that absolutely, like we say, is amazing thing to do. And I'm really happy that advice has changed, to be fair, because it's more encouraging, is it? It's not like the fear mongering thing of, you can't do this, you can't do that. So, very much like first trimester, it's like you can just continue with your training. There's things to be aware of. Like, obviously, we're not going to push for like doing like as many pull-ups as possible. Like you can again, it's completely dependent on how you find it. So some women, they might be able to go all the way through pregnancy, being able to do pull-ups without no doming. So when we talk about doming, obviously, like, or coning, should I say, we have obviously your abs, and there's a thing called diastasis recti, where obviously as you grow in a baby inside, your abs are going to separate eventually. Like that is going to happen to everyone because where's the baby going to go at the end of the day? So there is going to be that separation. However, like the amount that separation can happen is completely dependent on you, and it's not like if you do this one exercise, you will get this and you will, ruin your abs or anything like that, because they will come back together. Of course they will. But it's about just trying to do things that have less pressure on your abs. So, like, for instance, if you're doing a plank for a really long time and you feel like the doming of your abs, like the pushing against them, then it's about regressing that. So, doing something like a kneeling plank instead, that's going to have less pressure. So, it's very much like just recognizing the stages that, that might happen at, if you feel a bit of pressure there. Then of course it's just about regressing that. And that's the same for everything. Like, it might be that you go as being someone who's been able to do 10 pull-ups and then you're like, oh, trimester 2, I've done 1 pull-up and I felt a bit of doming. So I might then just regress them to like seated pull-ups, for instance. It doesn't mean you have to stop completely doing things. It's all just about regression and recognizing what's right for you. Like I say, like tier 2 me, she was doing pull-ups right until like she was due. But
Yeah.
she's got a very strong core and she's got massive muscles there. And obviously they're going to find it, they're going to be able to resist a lot more of that pressure, I guess. But it's very much about regression and not just giving up and saying to yourself, oh, well, it's hard, it's difficult. Like, you just got to go essentially with how you're feeling. Like, you might not be able to push as much, obviously, like further down the line, like trimester 2, 3, you might be doing like 50% of the weights that you were doing in the first trimester or before you're pregnant. And it's just recognizing that for yourself. But I think that's why it's important to have a coach. Like, a lot of people will be like, I'm pregnant, and stop coaching. And I'm like, this is why you need a coach, because you need someone. Like, look at your form videos. Is there any coding happening? Are you putting too much pressure on it? Do you need to look at your form? Obviously, like, building in exercises which are important for building your core, building your pelvic floor, training that, because there's obviously some changes as well that happen. Like, I know there's obviously posture changes when you're pregnant, because you've gone from like being this upright thing to suddenly having a big bump here.
Well, the central gravity changes, doesn't it? Because of like,
Exactly.
where your like shape is.
Yeah. And then people can say like, oh, you get a mum bum. And one of my clients mentioned it recently. She's like, oh, I don't want a mum bum. And I was like, what on earth are you talking about? And apparently that's what people call it. Like, when your posture changes, because the
The
position of
tipping
your
of the pelvis,
pelvis.
yeah.
Yeah, like, you'll get a mum bum. And I'm like, okay, well, more reason to train core, train glutes to prevent, and have that best posture you can. And it's not about, all about aesthetics, but if we can help to retain that muscle and help to, make sure that we are being strong in your posture and helping to fight some of I guess not fight the changes, but, adapt around the changes and have strong hips and to have strong glutes, then that's only going to support you, isn't it? And help lower back pain as well, which is important, isn't it?
Yeah, and like yeah, exactly as you said there with the changing in posture, if you are thinking that like effectively, if you imagine you have that classic arch in the back that people often associate with pregnant women, if you think about what impact that is putting on your lower back, we want to make sure that you have strong glutes and a strong core, because that
Mhm.
will really alleviate like all of the pressure that would have otherwise sat on your lower back. And if you've ever
Mhm.
experienced lower back pain, you'll know it's not a pleasant experience. So do as much as you can to alleviate that pain.
Exactly.
You will be better off for doing that. So I guess
Mhm.
that kind of like summarizes us for training for like that first
Mhm.
trimester. What do we need to consider in terms of like nutrition?
So I think nutrition wise, the big thing is like, we want that, especially maybe if you were like, I know I've had clients before who've been like fat loss focused and they've got pregnant and they've kind of struggled with like, oh, what now? And it's like, this is why, we're coaching you through this, because you need to get out of that mentality of you're not eating like a little bird. You need to not eat for two, because again, you don't want things to swing the other way and to pile on 4 stone and then to be like, ah, now I need to lose 4 stone postpartum. But it's about meeting your nutritional needs. It's about eating at maintenance. And I think I've written this down actually, because I wanted the exact numbers. You only need an extra 90 calories in trimester 1, trimester 2 about 280, and trimester 3 about 4 or 450-ish. And then if you are breastfeeding, that will stay the same around
And
that number.
that's per day, isn't it? Extra.
Yeah, extra per day above your maintenance calories. So that's quite interesting, because like a lot of people will just jump to that thing of, yay, I'm eating for two. And it's like, at this early stage, you've got like a little nut in your belly or a little satsuma. Like, You can't
There's
justify
absolutely no
having
point in feeding that much food.
exactly, and that kind of adds to that thing of like when women just eat and eat the feelings and eat in that mentality of I'm eating for two, it then kind of adds to that sluggish feeling because you're generally feeling more sluggish, feeling heavier. It's a lot more probably carbs. Like you're not overeating on vegetables and protein, really, are you? So they end up then feeling a bit more sluggish, and that can then make them generally just feel a bit more like ugh, ugh. Do you know that feeling? Um, so I think that's like one of the biggest myths is like you don't need to eat for two.
I think there as well, it's really important to highlight that if you go into pregnancy with a positive relationship with food, this will be much easier to do because to switch
Mhm,
out of that like fat loss mindset. I think as like women, we've definitely had this idea pushed on us probably for like, I mean, for probably everyone for their entire lives that like weight loss is the goal. Like, and weight
mhm.
loss, you should always be losing weight. And like, there's effectively weight loss and weight gain, and that's it. And like, maintenance never exists in this hypothetical scenario. Like, so
Yeah.
it's really important that we see that actually maintenance calories are an option and like they're a very, very viable option to
Mhm.
have. And actually during like pregnancy, like maintenance calories are realistically what you're eating. It's just your maintenance calories have gone gone up. Like
Yeah.
your caloric needs day to day have gone up. So it's something that's like really important to think about is if you find that like you're stressed if you're not on a diet, that might be worth addressing pre-pregnancy if possible because like
Mhm.
well one your life day to day will benefit from it, but two you will probably find it easier to eat at maintenance because you don't feel like quote unquote guilty for eating more, and like that's really important to
Mhm.
have that positive relationship with food in that phase.
Exactly. That's it, isn't it? If you can plan and you think like, right, we're going to aim to conceive here and start trying, then it's like, right, though, that's a good time to
Yeah.
get your calories up and to learn what maintenance looks like. Because I think, like, do you really want to be tracking if you're pregnant? Probably not. Some people, it might be a useful tool to do, and not from a perspective of like tracking calories and having to sit within, calorie boundaries, should we say, but more so like, are you getting enough of your protein and your fiber? And, are you getting enough food that you actually need? Because especially like trimester one, if you're feeling sick all the time, then the last thing you want to do is eat chicken breast, right?
Yeah. And actually your doctor will also have or your like your healthcare professional that you are seeing will have a like weight gain chart in which you will
Mhm,
sit like in between a certain spectrum, and they will expect you to gain certain amounts of weight over time. And if you
mhm,
are, say, tracking your calories, that can be really useful data for them, I imagine, to just be like,
mhm.
okay, if we're not you're not currently gaining at the rate that you should be, maybe we need to be thinking about like eating more and like thinking about that being
Yeah,
a consideration. So like if you are feeling like you would like to be armed with more data, I personally know I am someone who likes data day to day. Um,
same. Love
so
it.
like it might be worth having that information, like if you
Mhm,
are someone who feels like they need that. But if that would be not beneficial for you during that period, then don't track.
mhm.
Like, it's not as Laura
Exactly.
said here, there's no like one size fits all.
Mhm, and that's it, isn't it? There's no solution for anyone. It's not like you have to do this or you have to do that. It's just, this is like the general advice, general consensus, and it's like just moving through the different trimesters as you can. Like even the thing of, having more calories in trimester 3, a lot of women struggle with that because what actually happens is that the baby's got nowhere to move. Your organs are a bit compressed and your stomach is a bit compressed. So you will start to feel a bit fuller quite quicker. And actually trying to get the calories in that last trimester can be quite difficult for some people. So it's like, trying to have those small meals little and often, throughout the day. And it's managing things that just as you may find it. If you're carrying a larger baby, then of course, or, carrying twins, multiples, then you may find that harder. And again, it's that thing of like, you've got to work with what's best for you. But ultimately, you do really want to think about, not neglecting that protein, making sure you're getting that fibre in. Because of course, the more you can look after your stomach, your digestion, the better you're going to feel. At you, we know like good nutrition equals good mood. When we eat well, we feel better, don't we? And if you're already feeling sluggish from your energy being zapped from pregnancy, it's like, is eating more food that's going to make you feel sluggish helpful?
Yeah. Well, one thing to note is if you are experiencing things like morning sickness and you're finding that your appetite has completely gone, then finding foods that almost feel like good for you, but also add that nourishment in there is kind of going to be
Mhm.
your, like, it might feel like an elite sport, but it's a sport worth partaking in. Just so that you are getting in that like protein and fiber, and just
Mhm.
considering those, yeah, how to get those in is key.
Yeah, it's stuff like if like we say like some people get like the food versions of like like raw meat and stuff, we'll send them and they'll be like, "Ugh." So it's like, yeah, okay, like we wouldn't usually just advise getting your protein from like protein shakes or like a ginger tasting protein bar because ginger's been shown to alleviate some of the symptoms of sickness, but it's like just doing stuff like that because that's just going to help you through that period and it's not like a forever thing, but until those you don't want to absolutely spew your guts up at the thought of horrible foods and stuff like soups. There's are they like bol or something they're called, and they're like protein power soups and stuff like that. There's like they've got like quite nice chunk of fibre in, and a nice chunk of vegetables in there. And if it's stuff like that you can stomach with a bit of bread, then it's doing that, isn't it? And finding what works for you.
Yeah, and like even if you could make some like really simple swaps, like you could say swap from like white bread to brown bread, for example, like that
Hmm.
would just be a really easy way to get fiber up without having to eat something different. So you can still have
Hmm.
your plain toast if you want, but at least you're getting slightly more fiber in it. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. That's it,
So,
isn't it? And
oh,
go
no,
on.
go, no, no, go ahead.
I don't know what I was going to say now.
Okay.
Oh,
Right,
gone.
we'll move on to supplements then.
Oh
um,
dear, supplements.
the supplements then, we're in trimester one still. What do we need to be thinking of in terms of supplementation?
Yes. So I think supplements are like, obviously, like again, one of those things that's quite personal. We're not all deficient in everything, but as people who probably live in the UK, I'm guessing a lot of your listeners will be from here. Vitamin D is so
Oh!
important, isn't it?
I have,
Like,
if I could get a pound for every time I have said, "Are you taking your vitamin D tablets this year?" Like, genuinely, I would not be
mhm.
needed to work anymore. I am,
Yeah.
this is the first year I have consistently taken my vitamin D. So much better for it. Like
Mhm.
the stat is at a distance. I can feel she's
100%.
lingering, but she's at a distance.
She's arm's length. We're all
Yeah,
good.
yeah, but
It's such a
definitely take
difference.
your vitamin D.
100%. Yeah. Take your vitamin D. Like, obviously, you're having all these hormonal changes anyway, but, if you can take your vitamin D, like, can chill you the F out, of course. It's going to help. So that is vital. We know that. Folic acid for the first 3 months. So, obviously, if you pre-pregnancy trying to conceive, start taking folic acid, really important. And obviously, like, there's other things that you can obviously take, like creatine is safe to take. I get asked that a lot because it's obviously naturally occurring, absolutely safe to take. And if you want to, still get some gains, not gains as such, but like still have maybe a little boost of energy. We know creatine's not magic and it's not like a pre-workout and like, yeah, I've suddenly got all the gains. But if it's something you're already taking and you just want to continue that, then it's safe to do so. Same with like, your whey protein as well. Like we mentioned, if you want to supplement that, if like you don't want to have your meats and stuff, then that's good to take. Omega 3s are really good as well, like especially if you're not somebody who is having your oily fish, then your 2 portions of oily fish a week, then which I'm a terror for. I only manage one at the minute. So
Yeah, that's me. I get
omega 3s.
about one in, but I'm really trying for that second one. But I just not always in the
Same.
mood for oily fish, you know.
I know. I'm like, yeah, I like salmon, but do I like it that much? And
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
also
it's expensive.
expensive.
Yeah.
It's so expensive. I'm like, well, I do eat a lot of fish, but I'll eat like a lot of like bassa and cod and stuff like
Mhm.
that because like just white fish in nice sauce is good. But
Oh,
yeah,
white
oily
fish is so much
fish,
nicer than like fatty fish, I find as well. So yeah,
same. I
yeah.
went through a phase of really liking mackerel though, but you have to like debone the mackerel and stuff, and it's
You can buy
it's
boneless
hard.
mackerel. Get yourself on the boneless
Can you?
mackerel. Yeah,
Can you?
I'm pretty sure you can, or
Maybe I've just had bad batches.
at least it is. Maybe I'm wrong on this one, but I don't seem to remember picking out any bones, or at least it was easy to get the lack of bones in the mackerel that I've had. You know, if you have like those like peppered ones from like
Yeah,
Aldi or
they're
whatever,
the one that, yeah.
they tend to be pretty boneless.
Maybe I've just had them and I've just
I think
found
we're
a
just a
bone
bad
in it and
time.
it's just sent me and I've been like, oh, it's nothing worse than a little fish bone. Like you're like, oh,
Yeah. And another one that you can have as well on the fatty fish is like tin sardines,
yes.
mackerel, herring, anything like that. They're
Hmm.
relatively cheap, really easy way to get your
Very
own
cheap. Yeah.
season. Yeah.
My dog has a tin of sardines every week.
So currently your dog's getting in more omega-3s than you are.
He has such a shiny coat as well. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh
Sorry, back
dear.
to the pregnancy supplements.
Omega-3s are great, but yeah, they're easier to take in. And I mean, a lot of people don't really like fish sometimes, do they? Again, might be something that you get put off pregnancy,
Yeah,
the smell might send you. So yeah, and like a probiotic can be helpful, and there's a lot of changes that do happen in your gut, and it can help to keep your bowel movement going, which is a good thing, of course. So yeah, it's like you don't have to magically go and absolutely change everything, and obviously everything is very much personal to you. But yeah, I'd say like non-negotiables. Obviously, your vitamin D, you want to, of course, be getting your folic acid in those that first trimester, and then what was the other omega-3s if you're not getting your oily fishes, of course. But yeah, I think, it's supplements should follow a good, you know, nutritional diet. And
yeah,
that's the same, isn't it, in any advice that we give, even if it is in a pre-pregnancy, postnatal, whatever situation. It's like that wants to be your bread and butter. I think people look at supplements as a way to like fix all these problems of I've got this bloating or whatever and going on. And it's like, okay, well, first port of call is what's your fiber like?
yeah.
what's your protein like? Are you getting lots of whole grains in, and making sure that's covered first, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think as with anything, supplements are your cherry on top. They're not your entire cake. So make sure that you are like your nutrition is in the best spot that it can be, and then you supplement to like complement that, not to be the full star of the show. Just a
Mhm.
quick question on fish, actually, because that is something that I don't know whether this is now just an old wives' tale, whether it's still the advice, but tuna has always been an interesting one during pregnancy due to
Mhm.
the mercury content. Is it still advised that you avoid tuna during pregnancy, or
It's not avoid it, but it's like you'd have to have quite a lot of tuna to get like the mercury poisoning. So I
Mhm.
can't remember exactly how much it is, but you're not really going to get mercury poisoning from the amount of tuna that we probably have it, unless you are like a tuna fanatic.
literally three
Um,
meals a day every single day?
be concerned, yeah, like my
Yeah.
dog.
If you have a really shiny coat, then
Yeah. Yeah, I
um,
think I think maybe it's like I can't remember the exact portions, but yeah, like it is quite difficult to mercury poison yourself, really.
that's fine. I think that's one of those things where, like, it's possibly been the advice in the past and then it has
Mhm,
changed. And actually, that might be just one thing to note here is that, like, when, if you are pregnant, often you end up having
mhm.
those conversations with people around you, say, for example, your mum, your grandma, your
Yeah.
aunties, whoever it is who may have also been pregnant. The advice that they were given during their pregnancy, the advice may have changed now. So actually just remember to, if you want to double check something, do your own research, check with your healthcare
Mhm.
professional, check with a coach who's pre and postnatal qualified, like have those
Yeah.
conversations on, is this a good idea? Because the
Mhm.
information may have changed since X number of years ago when that person was last pregnant.
Exactly. There is, like, obviously things to avoid, which is like I think it's like obviously you can't have things like like raw and pasteurized things are not great. Like, you don't want to take that risk, do you, anyway? And,
Yeah.
like having steak and stuff like that, it's like making sure it's thoroughly cooked. Um there's things like obviously if you a lot of things are quite niche, like, don't have like game, if it's stuff that's been shot with like lead pellets and things like that, like beware of those things. And
So if
um
you are eating food that has been hunted by hand, then don't do that whilst you're pregnant.
if you are a hunter gatherer, yeah, you might need to rethink your nutritional choices.
Yeah. Or you are a like 18th century housewife.
Yeah. That's the thing, is it like tradwife or something? Like
Oh, yeah.
there's like regression there or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there'll be more problems than them having fresh game on for the trad wives, but
Exactly right.
but yeah, I mean, in terms of that, are there any other like nutritional considerations to just be like we should be avoiding these foods?
I think it's well, the other things that I've probably not mentioned. Obviously, like caffeine, you don't want to be having like 27 coffees a day. I think it's like 200 milligrams, I think. that you want to limit yourself to. So it's just something to be aware of. Like I know some people like, need coffee, and it doesn't mean you can't have anything at all, but you don't want to be having, 7 monsters a day, because that's not a great idea, is it? And again, like it's like a lot of it is common sense, really, isn't it? It's a lot of thinking, right, yeah, if I'm, struggling with sleep and feeling sick and things like that, then, things like that going to help me.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously, like having shot in raw eggs and stuff, it's a no go.
So if you have a questionable diet, maybe get rid of that. But if you're a normal person, you don't
Yeah.
shoot your game and eat it, and you don't shot raw eggs, you'll be fine, basically.
100%. Yeah. I think one thing to be aware of is like you do want to make sure that you are having a lot of water, you're drinking a lot, because it helps to aid the increase in blood volume. So that's something to be aware of. Like if you can help yourself out and not be dehydrated, then it's going to be great for you. And again, like things like that can help with nausea, like sipping drinks and like ginger teas and stuff like that throughout the day can be really helpful too.
Great. So copious amounts of ginger, and you have them in tea format so that you can stay hydrated as well. That works well.
Yeah.
Um,
And no
is
dead pigeons.
is there anything else you want to like go through in that kind of first trimester period, or do you feel like we've covered that?
I think we've pretty much, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Cool. Let's talk about trimester two then, because I know that's where some changes start to kick in. So let's
Mhm.
start with training. What do we need to do in terms of exercise in trimester two?
So the thing like that probably will happen for a lot of people in trimester two, they'll probably start to feel a lot better. Hormones have kind of like you've gone from suddenly like having a massive change in hormones to them like kind of getting used to the hormonal changes. So for a lot of people, trimester two, they like come back to life and they're like, "Woo, I feel so much better," which is brilliant because obviously, like you want to be able to feel good, don't you? And be a thing of like feeling absolutely miserable the whole way throughout. So again, it's not like there's not a lot you can and can't do. It's things like obviously in trimester two, if you're starting to develop more of a bump, then of course, like don't bump the bump. That is a really good like thing to remember is, like you don't want to like be throwing weights off your bumps and things like that. And it might be like certain adjustments, like if you do a hip thrust and stuff, you might want to change to doing like if you're feeling like the bar's quite uncomfortable, like rolling it down onto your legs a bit more, or going for like banded variations or like single leg hip thrust, and again just stuff like that, which is very personal to you, but of course it's just taking it kind of like day by day more than anything, isn't it? Because there's a lot of changes that do happen, and there's also like relaxing like starts. Relaxing is a hormone that the body releases, obviously, to like relax. As you get ready for birth, your body, your muscles need to be able to relax, don't they? And it helps to do that, and that starts to like affect the ligaments, the pelvis, and things like that from 6 weeks. And I think that reaches its peak at around 12. So that's like, it's max. And a lot of people find that they might be a bit more flexible, during that time. And then they think, oh, I know, I'm just going to do the splits and things like that. It's like, no, 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 no. Duh. Like, don't push the limits with things like that, because you know that if technically you're going to be a bit more flexible, then, you may be putting yourself at injury, and, don't suddenly just start doing calisthenics and, all this stretching for splits and stuff. Like, yeah, that's not something that you want to think, oh, I'm more stretchy, I'll, monopolize on that, because it doesn't work like that, basically.
Yeah. I think as well, like to remember that trimester two is quite a long period of time, and like what you're like at the very start of trimester two versus what you're like at the end of trimester two is like your bump may look
Yeah.
different. So if you
Hmm.
like are changing over that time as well, you might find that trimester, like the first, 'cause trimester two starts at 12 weeks, doesn't it? It's around
Yes.
then. Yeah. So is it 12
Mhm.
to 24? Is that right?
Yeah, my brain always like whenever we say numbers, because you know what always confuses me when people talk about trimester four, and I'm like, trimester four?
Wait,
People don't know about this.
what was trimester four?
Trimester four, postnatal, basically. So
Ah,
obviously,
that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, changes that are still happening with your body. So I think, like, again, it's not like you will magically feel this on 12 plus 1 or whatever, like, you know, like 13 weeks and you're like, ta-da!
I have bumps.
Yeah. And I think that's it, like, you can't, again, it's like, same with your fitness journey, like, you can't compare your journey to anybody else's, can you? Because, again, things might happen at a different rate and your bump might be very different to a bump at a certain time. And that's why it's important just to be like, go at your own pace. And again, if psychologically you're struggling with some of those feelings and the feelings of the changes that are happening with your body physically, mentally, that's why it's good to have a coach.
Yeah, and, like, just to have someone else to take the, like, burden off you because you are, like, thinking
Yeah.
about well, you are thinking about baby and all the things that are gonna come with that. So, like, if it's something
Mhm.
that you can, like, you can, like, afford in your life, then, like, it would be
Mhm.
worth having just for, like, that reason. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, nutrition considerations then during trimester 2.
Mhm.
Anything different? Anything that we need to consider specifically or
So it's kind of it's pretty much the same, to be fair. Like, again, it's just been aware of like we say, like your appetite might come back a bit. You might start to feel less nauseous. So you might suddenly find you're a bit of a ravenous beast. And again, it's just knowing that you don't need to eat for two and, you know, try to make sure, like we say, you're getting your protein in, you are eating well. And I know that eating well may look different for a lot of people, but you know, majority whole foods is what we say, isn't it? You know,
yeah,
not trying to just shovel in as many there's like I don't know, there's a whole like ultra processed foods thing. It's not like they're bad or anything, is it? But we know that they're if you just lived off ultra processed foods, then they're very calorific and you're probably going to have a bit of a sugar dump and feel rubbish, aren't you? Which you don't want in pregnancy. You want to feel better, don't you?
yeah. And, like, if you are craving, say, something specific that is within that, like, quote unquote ultra processed category, have it with some protein or fiber because it will reduce the
Mhm.
impact of that, and plus you're getting some protein and
Yeah,
fiber in. Like you will
exactly.
not be worse off for doing that.
Hmm.
So yeah, just I think like really simple stuff there, like exactly as you said. But if your appetite is coming back and you are finding that you are hungry, protein and fiber are really important for staying full. So whatever it is that you can stomach within that genre of food, have fun with
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Um,
Hmm.
anything else in terms of nutrition that we need to cover in trimester 2?
No, it's pretty much like just go with the flow.
Yeah,
Eat
that's an
well.
easy one. What about supplementation? Does anything need to change?
No, it's very much like the same in terms of like obviously supplements. The only thing that really changes is like that folic acid from the first sort of um trimester. That's because that's just like to help with the brain development and things like that of the baby. So yeah, in terms of the supplementation, it's just keep taking vitamin D if you're taking it, unless it's obviously like beautiful, glorious sunshine, which is it ever? Like no.
Even in summer, like, we're not getting that, so
Exactly. I take vitamin D all year round because I'm like, I just never get vitamin D.
Yeah, especially when you work inside, like, there's only so much work
Yeah.
you can do, like, there's so much you can do to
Mhm.
get your exposure to vitamin D, like, yeah. Um, but this has just become a podcast about vitamin D.
I know. We're not like sponsored by vitamin D or anything.
Vitamin D and
So
omega-3s.
yeah, oily fish,
Yeah.
sardines. Brilliant.
So, one thing that we've not actually spoken about during either of the trimesters that we've spoken about so far is sleep. Do you wanna
Mhm,
give us just a little bit of a rundown of, like, what might be impacted in terms of sleep
mhm.
across these first 2 trimesters, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, first one, it's very much like if you're nauseous and if you're just feeling awful, then of course that may impact things. And of course it may stop you from sleeping. As you get through, like it can be more so the discomfort that stops you from sleeping, so more so the fact that you're not used to like sleeping in certain positions and you can't get comfy. Like that is mainly that the big thing that does impact things. But obviously, like we know sleep's important for everything, isn't it? And of course, we want to anyone, even if you're not pregnant, like prioritize sleep the best you can.
Yeah.
And I know like if only sleep could be banked because you know that when you're gonna give birth that you may not have a lot of it. Like, let's be honest. But it's yeah, it's just and I know that that's such an annoying thing to say to people who are like listening if they are postnatal with children and they're like, I can't get priority sleep, like, I can't prioritize it. And it is just one of those things, isn't it, where you do want to just try and sleep hygiene as they call it, don't they? And I know sleep hygiene. I don't get sleep hygiene because I'm like, it implies that you like have to have a bath or a shower before you go to sleep, doesn't it? And it's like, No, it's just make your environment more appropriate for sleep, like, reduce your screen time, try get comfy, like, wear an eye mask if you need to, like, all of those things which are helpful, and again, there used to be, like, a lot of advice of, like, don't lay in certain positions in pregnancy, and it's like how that's kind of been debunked because it's like, how do you stop yourself from, like, laying in certain positions, you know? Like, obviously, you're not really gonna lay on your stomach, are you? Because it's gonna be difficult to lay on your stomach anyway, but it's that thing of, like, oh, you shouldn't lay on your left side or your right side and things like that, and it's very much been, debunked, so, yeah, I think the big thing is just try to get to sleep.
Yeah, and, like, prioritize it as much as possible, but
Mhm,
yeah, that's great, like, and I think that's really useful to know as well on the don't lie on this side, don't lie on that side kind of stuff, because,
mhm,
again, I think these are things that maybe our parents' generations would have been told, and
mhm,
if you are listening to, like, their advice on it, well, then that's information that's now out of date, and because, well, chances
mhm.
are they gave they gave birth several years ago. If I'm assuming if you are at the point of having child, they, gave birth
Mhm.
probably at least a good few years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that is good to know. So let's
Mhm.
move on then to trimester 3. This is where the action happens.
The action.
Yeah, trimester 3, what's going on? And I guess yeah, give us a bit of a rundown of what to do during this phase.
So I guess the big things with like trimester 3 are comfort, like it's finding what you're able to do. Like obviously some things in the gym that like might involve like getting up and getting down might be a bit difficult. So it's like you may find it's more comfortable to do stuff that's like seated. Because obviously like if you're trying to do like laying on the floor and then getting up, like physically having to roll yourself up and stuff like that can be more difficult. Um you might notice a lot more of those postural changes into trimester 3, which of course, like where a lot of the growing happens, then of course you're going to feel like you're quite large and uncomfortable. But, you know, like we say, exercise can always help with that. Of course it will. Like, you know, it's always going to help you just to, and we know even like as, you know, women who are not pregnant or haven't been postnatal that, you know, we will always feel like you naturally do feel better in yourself when you exercise, don't you? The endorphin rise that happens. And you know, the same obvious sort of thing happens when you do exercise in pregnancy. And I think a lot of women can feel like a lot of movement as well from obviously the baby moving. And it's like, oh yeah, they're enjoying the gym session. And I'm like, I love that.
That's, like, really nice as well, like, just to know that you can still move during that period, like, there is not a, like, "You must, now be careful, you're most fragile, we now need to wrap you in cotton
Mhm.
wool, and this is it." That's nice to know that actually you can still move, you just
Yeah,
gotta just be mindful of the fact
exactly.
that you look slightly different because you got a big belly at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. That's it, isn't it? It's like, again, just adjust with what feels right for you. And if you have trouble doing that, then it's good to have a coach who can help with that and to know like what exercises you should be focusing on. Because of course it's still important to focus on building that core, working on your pelvic floor, making sure that you're doing that core stuff. Because of course that's going to carry you right over into postnatal as well. So it's like if you can get that stuff in place and feel really good about doing it, then you know it's a good routine and you can make sure then, you know, after you have given birth that it's something that falls naturally back into your life to make sure that you recover better as well.
Yeah, and I think, like, exactly as you said there, like, it's only gonna make things better in a few weeks' time, so, like,
Exactly.
why not? Like, why wouldn't you do
Mhm.
that? There's one thing that actually I want to highlight here. I don't know if you follow, Sohi Carpenter on,
Yes.
Instagram? Yeah, so if you don't know who she is, she's a, famous I really hate the word fitness influencer because I think it, like, really undermines what she does. She is
Mhm.
a, yeah, she's a really great person to follow if you don't already follow her, but she's currently pregnant, and one thing that she shared recently was all the opinions that people have had, particularly around her exercising. Bearing in mind she has a PhD in, like, exercise basically, like, in sort of
Mhm.
something exercise related. I'm not quite sure specifically what it is, but it's definitely related to, like, training. And people still had opinions about what she was doing, and they were saying it's unsafe. You're gonna cause, like, damage to the baby, and so on.
Mhm.
And during this time period, people will feel more entitled to give opinions on your body, and that is just something I've generally seen. I don't know if you've seen that, Laura, but, like,
Yeah.
I've generally seen that, like, that as a trend is people feel more entitled to give opinions on it. What's
Mhm.
important is you make decisions aligned to you and how you feel and what you want. So, like, they might have opinions, but it doesn't mean that they're right. Like, and it doesn't mean that
Mhm.
they necessarily know know anything about it, and they can't say what your lived experience is, because especially if you are someone who exercises regularly anyway, so they're not exercising for like 8 weeks or whatever in like well, I'm hoping that you trimester through slightly longer than that, but like not exercising for like that amount of time like will cause you more issues than like what you would do if you like did exercise. So just
Mhm.
remembering there that like people will always share their opinions, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're right.
Exactly. Yeah. That's it, isn't it? I was gonna say something rude then, but I won't say it for the podcast.
um
Opinions are like something. Everybody has them, but
yeah,
you
yeah.
know how it goes.
I think as well, like when it comes to just on a like general health, even if you're not pregnant, people still feel entitled to opinions about your exercise,
Yeah, they
about your
do.
nutrition. Like for some reason, health is something that everybody else thinks that they should have, that they know
Mhm,
best in because they also have a body.
mhm.
And yeah, like it's really important that you just make decisions that are aligned to you. Um,
100%.
but yeah, like
Yeah.
on that then, trimester 3 nutrition. What do we need to think?
Obviously increase of calories slightly, not massively, like when you think about it, is it? Like it's not loads, but like you say as well, you may not want to, physically eat as much because you're like, you might struggle with quite large meals if your stomach is compressed. Then, of course, there's not a lot of space going on there. So, like trying to eat more, smaller meals regularly might help you rather than what you might have done in trimester 1, which is skip meals, because you've got that sickness and then try and avoid things. Whereas it's like trimester 3, try and, eat as regularly as you can basically to help kind of alleviate that. You might not feel that again, it's totally dependent on you. But there's no like right and wrong answer in terms of like the exact amount of calories that you will need because we don't really know. We don't really know. But I mean, if you are obviously tracking, then you would know that, like, okay, I need an extra 450-ish. Helps breast milk to come in. But of course, and that doesn't mean like if you're not feeding, you don't need to have extra calories as well. So it can get, quite complicated sometimes. But I think it's just, again, like obviously roll with the considerations of don't be eating dead pigeons and things like that. And just like think about looking after your body still. Like we know that and again, like it may be like you may not be somebody who can train right up until your due date, and that's fine because you might think that things are really uncomfortable and walking might feel quite uncomfortable and things like that. But some people might be able to train like the day up to the due date, and it doesn't mean you're a bad person or you're terrible or you're a rubbish mum or anything like that because you're not able to do that. It's just pregnancy treats everybody a little bit different, and again, like on the thing of, like, so he in the comments that she's had, like, I think, like running the marathon and stuff, and like Tia Toomey, she had the same of performing CrossFit and posting the pictures with like this massive bump. And I'm like, she's somebody who has like trained for like 4 or 5 hours a day for most of her life. And, she's probably cut that down to like 1 or 2, just in the run up to giving birth. And that's fine for her. And you can't compare yourself to people like that because, of course, most women will not have the time and energy to be able to do that and to train like that. And, they've not built that, they've not got that resilience that's kind of come through the amount of training that those people have done to be able to recover that quickly. So,
Also,
yeah.
they're professional athletes, like, their job like,
Yeah.
yeah, for, like, for the CrossFit, person, Tia, like, her
Yeah.
full-time job is to be a professional CrossFit athlete, um,
100%.
so, like, it's different, that's basically she's just not taken maternity leave yet, like like, that is, like, what she's doing, so for her to
Mhm.
strip back to, say, a couple of hours a day is a huge movement in the right direction for her,
Yeah.
like, or like rather is a huge consideration for her, like in what her body's needs are,
Mhm.
versus going to absolutely nothing, which would probably actually be detrimental to her because her other
Yeah.
overall health would be impacted, and that would be counterproductive. Full stop.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, it's a psychological thing as well, isn't it? Like, I don't know if you're the same, but I very much exercise for my mental health as well
Yeah,
as physical. And I know that if I suddenly just stopped training because I was pregnant, I would absolutely lose my shit. And that would be detrimental to
yeah,
my baby and my pregnancy. Like, and obviously when we talk about things like postnatal depression, like, of course, you want to be in the fittest and healthiest position that you can be when you are pregnant. Because, of course, if it can help you to, and it's not saying, of course, like, we're not saying that if you go to the gym, you're not going to get postnatal depression. Of course, we're not. Like, we can't make blanket statements like that. But if it can help to alleviate some of those symptoms and help to still, I think, like, give something for you as well. Like, a lot of, I know, and I don't know if you have it, as like a lot of women coming back, like wanting to get fit and healthy, lose a bit of weight after pregnancy, after giving birth, and they're like now struggling with their body image, and because obviously a lot of changes have happened, and they've kind of gone from like having that identity and that person who trains to suddenly just being mum. And it's like, if
Hmm.
you can keep that part of you where, no, of course, throughout pregnancy, you're not training for PBs, you're not going to get your first pull up and things like that. Like, but if you can just keep it as like that consistent thing that you go and you do for yourself because you know that it's good
Hmm.
for your general health, but also your mental well-being as well, then surely that is something that's going to set you up long term, and it's going to help you to get through that as well.
Yeah, I think one thing to highlight here as well is the idea of like epigenetics. I don't know if you know much about epigenetics, Laura.
Tell me.
Okay, so this is really testing my knowledge here. So go do your own research if you want to know more about this. We're really testing Holly's A level biology knowledge here, plus little bits of research I've done since then. But basically, when you are pregnant, the baby is deciding what genes to have switched on and what genes to have like
Mhm,
not switched off. So it's still got the DNA, but it's like and it's still got the genes there, but not all of them will get expressed. And epigenetics help to influence what genes get expressed, and it's basically based on mum's health and what happens to mum during that pregnancy. So one thing that can happen is if mum is like say going through a really tough time for whatever reason, that can be impacted on the genes that get expressed on the baby. So one thing to
mhm,
consider is how can you make your like self and your mental health be in the best place possible during your pregnancy, because that will influence your baby positively. um,
mhm.
and I think sometimes we think like baby's not real until like baby appears. But like you are influencing the thing growing inside you, like whether you like it or not. So what you eat, how you feel, how you cope with stress,
Mhm,
how your mental health is. Like actually making sure that all of those things are in a good place will mean that your baby will be like, will be expressing genes in a nicer way.
yeah,
So like it's really interesting in that sense that like do what you can to protect that, and if that means exercising for a couple of hours a day, then great,
mhm,
do that because that will be beneficial for everybody.
mhm. That makes sense because it's kinda like the thing of, I do know that, like, and I didn't know that this is called epigenetics, but I guess it's like the similar thing of, like, the women who are found to, like, have healthy pregnancies, train through their pregnancies, exercise,
Yeah.
their children, it reduces the risk of childhood obesity, so similar kind of thing.
That will probably be under the same, like, line of epigenetics.
Yeah.
I guess so. We might be making a tenuous connection here. Don't go cite us on this. If you are listening to this, you're not using
Yeah.
your official.
Don't get us cancelled.
Yeah. We've caveated this enough. But, like,
Yeah.
in terms of, yeah, how your, like, body responds, it
Mhm.
makes sense that if you
It
are
does.
healthier, like, your kid will be healthier. Like, um
Mhm.
yeah, so, like, do what you can. You are setting both of you up, like, for success.
Exactly. 100%. That's it, isn't it? Like, you're not doing it from that perspective of trying to, be your physique is the best shape possible or anything like that. But it's have a healthier pregnancy, have, a healthier birth, the best you can, reduce the risks, and to have a healthier baby. Like, that is the goal, isn't it?
Yeah. So, trimester 3, have we missed anything? Is there anything else to talk about?
I don't think so. I think it's just like we say, just take it at your own pace. Like, see
Yeah.
what works for you. Like, there's no right and wrong answer when you stop training. To It's however you feel, and you will know yourself when you're like, yeah, cannot physically get to the gym, can't get out of this armchair. I need to stay here.
I think one thing to highlight here is just that pregnancy is a 9-month process for most people. So, like, if
Mhm.
you give in day one and go, right, I'm not going to exercise for the next 9 months, that's a long time to like not exercise. And like,
Yeah.
it's okay if things shift across the course of the whole 9 months.
Mhm.
But like, this is effectively a marathon, not a sprint in terms of your pregnancy.
Mhm.
Like, so do what you need to do during that pregnancy, but just the majority of the time, if you can make consistently healthy choices, not perfect choices, but consistently healthy choices, that
Mhm.
will like across the scope of the pregnancy, that will be really beneficial. Yeah, long term.
Exactly that. Yeah. And I think like the thing of like just saying stopping just because you're pregnant and being like, I'm not going to train now, and then wanting to suddenly start postnatal, that is going to be so hard. That will be so much
Yeah.
harder than training throughout
Throughout.
pregnancy.
Yeah.
Like, so just consider that.
Okay, so we've popped. Baby has arrived. Wow, wow, great
Popped.
news. Yeah. The pregnancy has happened. It's been everything's been smooth sailing. You are now in trimester 4, as I have learnt we are about to call it. And we are now postnatal. What
Mhm.
happens now? Where are we at?
So obviously it depends on delivery. So again, very personal. I know people may have traumatic births, some people may have a lovely birth, and of course, it's very personal to you. So there's no like rush. That's the big important thing. Like nobody's saying you need to go back to the gym tomorrow. Probably like to me. Like, do not compare yourself to these people, right? Stay in your own lane. Things that are good to do are to get like on it with your pelvic floor work, right? Because we know that pelvic changes will have happened even if you have a cesarean section. Okay, like things will still change, things will still move, and that's an important thing to remember again. So like you want to get back to doing like your core, your pelvic floor work, like the stuff that's going to help to build back that strength. Um, like as soon as possible really, but following on from any doctor's advice and however of course the pregnancy and delivery has been for you. um Obviously if it's a c-section that will be a lot longer in terms of recovery, so you're limited to like what things you can do. So it's just important to bear that in mind because it's even stuff like lifting up the things and carrying
Yeah.
the baby and stuff like that. Like you want to reduce the amount of stuff like that you can do during that time. So obviously you're not going to go back in the gym and do pull-ups, are you? Like, common sense, it's always common sense, isn't it? Like that will win in this situation. But something I do like is that there's a lot more spoken about like pelvic health now, isn't there? And we know that it's not like a taboo subject and we can talk about the pelvic floor and we can talk about like leaking when you skip or run and stuff like that. And like, of course, some of these things may happen. And I think like it's a really good idea for like anyone to go and get like a little, they call it like mummy MOTs now. Have you heard of it?
I have not, but this sounds like a great thing.
There you go, mummy MOT, where they basically like give you a good look over, like look at obviously like your pelvic floor and kind of chat through like how things have been, how's your diastasis recti, that separation and things like that, and it's kind of like a bit of a go ahead of like yeah okay like, and they might give you a bit of a like a like a rehab plan to follow and stuff like that of things that you can be doing, and of course if you work with a postnatal coach. Like I would give my clients a bit of like a rehab sort of postnatal stuff that they can be doing as well that can, like slowly build up that core strength as well without putting too much pressure on it. Because obviously there's things that like can happen like prolapse and stuff, and you don't want to do too much too soon. But again, it's stuff that we don't just completely avoid it because of the risk of prolapse. Because it's important to build that strength back up.
Yeah. And I think one thing just to highlight there, and we all often forget this because we're like, no, you just delivered a baby, but like a C-section is major abdominal surgery. And that is
Hmm.
something that like most people just forget because you're like, no, birth is so natural. It's something that happens to
Hmm.
most people. So like, just remembering that if you have had a like surgery, you need to give yourself the appropriate recovery time. Also, if you have
Hmm.
not and you have just, you've pushed, then that's also something that's been a major impact on your body. Like, I've had my first friend give birth, and she gave me the details of the birth, and it did not sound exciting. I was like, great, solidified the fact that I never want to birth a child. Um, but like we were talking about having to have be like stitched back up again, and like all of
Hmm.
that is a big impact on your body, and it's a huge
Hmm.
stressor. So if you need to like go through a phase where you slow down for 6 weeks,
Hmm.
12 weeks post birth, that's all right. Like I'd be surprised if you didn't need to do that, and like on top of that you're probably not
Hmm.
getting as much sleep as you'd want to get. So
Yeah.
yeah, like it's worth just considering all of those things and just being like, all right, this is going to be a little bit different, but it's not going to be forever.
Yeah, exactly that. Like, you don't know what it's going to be like, do you? Especially if it's like your first child. Of course, you don't know. And again, like every child, every newborn is different. Some might sleep, some might not. It depends if it depends on luck at the end of the day, doesn't it? And that's it. Like, you don't know how it's going to be. But again, like if you can get back to, and even if it's just like home workouts, you might have been a gym person before. and you might love the gym, but even if you can just get back of, doing a bit of core work at home and pelvic floor work, then like that is good enough. It doesn't mean you have to go in and be throwing those dumbbells around and trying to get like pre-pregnancy body and all this. It's like, no, like let's just slow down and be sensible about it.
Yeah. And one thing to consider as well is that your baby should hypothetically be getting heavier over time. So you are progressively overloading every
Mhm.
time you pick your baby up.
Yeah.
So, but like, you don't underestimate what you are doing. Like you lifting your baby up, just still think about doing that with good form. Or
Mm,
like, if you are carrying your baby around, making sure that you swap hips so that you don't end up like with
yeah,
like
that's a big
one
one.
side or the other side, like being slightly
Mhm,
wonky. Like just making sure that you are as like you are like still remembering that the exercise that you are doing at home is still exercise,
mhm,
even though it's not throwing a dumbbell around, you're just throwing a pound baby around. Well, multiple
mhm.
pound baby. I hope you're not having a pound baby, but um, but yeah, like I mean, is there anything else you want to add in terms of exercise in that like postnatal period?
No, I
I
think
say
it's very
postnatal period. I know
much.
it's all postnatal now, but
Yeah, it's about a recovery in that time. It's about recovery. It's about finding that base strength again. And like the most important bit is working on your pelvic floor, working on your core. And when we talk about your core, it's not just your front of your abs, but also your back as well, your lower back, your posterior chain, which is important as well. So yeah, like if you can get back, of course, like 6 to 8 weeks, then brilliant. If you can't, then it's fine. Just go at your own pace.
yeah, and like again, this is gonna be to some degree the rest of your life in terms of like having a
Hmm.
child. So, but like they're not gonna be the same as what they are within the first 6 weeks. So,
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
yeah, if you're not getting any sleep, it's not gonna be like that forever. I
Hmm.
say this as someone that does not have kids, so maybe it is like that forever. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments.
You're gonna get haters now.
Yeah. First you were chatting shit about epigenetics, now you're telling me my kids sleep. So what about
Mm.
nutrition during this time period? Because obviously breastfeeding is something that happens for potentially up to what, a year? Like some people breastfeed for quite a long time, don't they? So what
Mhm.
nutrition considerations do we need to make?
So I think the big thing is like obviously if you are breastfeeding, then you want to keep your calories up. Because it helps with milk supply. Again, that's not an excuse to have takeaways every night and just eat in the sake of keeping my milk supply in there. Like milk supply will be pretty good, and you're probably safe and sound there. But yeah, it's obviously something to consider. And if you've chosen not to breastfeed, then you technically don't need the extra calories. But again, that doesn't mean I'm saying go into a deficit. Like you can eat your maintenance and be absolutely fine during that time. Um, Vitamin D for baby, important. Vitamin D for you, important. There's obviously like, things like you're not gonna be like drinking loads of alcohol, etc. And if you're breastfeeding and things like that, like it's common sense, isn't it? Like let's,
Yeah.
you know, be honest in that respect. Like it's very much understanding um that what you're having essentially is going to be passed on through some way through breast milk. And do you want your baby to be having 40 kilo shots? Probably not. However much you want to.
I've got a really nice vision in my head at the moment of a new mum just shotting to
Straight out the delivery
yeah.
suite. They
Especially
waited
9
9
months.
months. Yeah, exactly.
Um, on that note, actually, we didn't mention this, but obviously, alcohol during pregnancy, as far as I'm aware, that's still a big fat no.
Yeah,
Cool.
unfortunately not. Like, but also if you're already feeling sick and horrible, like, would you want to, you know?
Yeah, not something that would be literally my cup of tea. So,
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
during that like period as well, if someone does decide that they let's say we're past that kind of like initial 6 to 12 weeks, and then they're like, okay, I am still breastfeeding, but I do want to start losing weight, and that might be a decision that
Mhm.
they've made, and actually it's a decision that they're happy to do.
Yeah.
What kind of do we need to consider when it comes to, I guess, recreating that calorie deficit?
Yeah. So obviously get a coach, don't do it yourself. That's what I would say first and foremost, because you want to make sure that you don't affect like your breast milk supply. And obviously, a lot of people might think like, I can dramatically cut my calories down because also I'm going to benefit from that thing of I'm burning more calories because of my breast milk. Do you know what I mean? And it's like no, we don't just need to start eating 1,200 calories. You can lose weight and actually quite a lot of calories when you are,
Yeah.
breastfeeding, because you've got, you're using a lot more. You're making breast milk. You are giving it to a child. So you're feeding a human. Like, you are solely doing that. So yeah, like, I do have clients who will come to me and they will be breastfeeding, but it's also, like, important to consider, like, the amount that you're breastfeeding as well. Like, some people, like, they drop feeds, some people choose to feed for a long time, some people don't. And yeah, like, if you like bottle and breastfed and stuff like that, like, there's just important things to consider, and that will, like, affect, like, the calories and things like that. But I think the big thing will always be, like, your the nutrition that you need in terms of, like, when you are pregnant compared to, like, postpartum and, pre-pregnancy. It's very much like, have your proteins, have your healthy fats, have your fiber. It's those important things, isn't it, that are going to be helpful for you. And of course, it's important to think about, like, when you are breastfeeding, like, your period doesn't come back for a long time, and it's like when you stop breastfeeding, then it might even take even longer for that to come back, and things like that. Like, the hormonal changes don't happen, um, of, like, cycle coming back into sync for quite a while as well, and that can be a difficult time to deal with, especially if you've not had a period in a very long time. Like, that in itself can, we know how joyful periods are, right? And that in itself can be quite difficult. So yeah, I think it's just like, there's nothing wrong with fat loss postpartum, but it's just doing it in the way that's, like, not trying to deprive yourself of the nutrients, because you have to remember that you are providing your nutrients to a baby as well.
Yeah, and like one thing to say there is making sure that you get a like quote unquote good quality diet because those
Hmm.
nutrients have been passed on to baby. So it's important that
Yeah,
you don't just have takeaways every night because that are probably quite low in protein and
100%.
fiber, and that'd be quite useful for you to
Yeah.
have. And like a varied diet where you're getting like your like a wide spectrum of plants, so you're getting all your
Hmm.
micronutrients in there. So like
Yeah.
having those things covered makes it a lot easier, and will make sure that you're giving your child like better quality milk. So
Hmm.
yeah, like they're all things
Yeah.
to consider. Anything
Mhm.
else during that postnatal period, like especially like just post birth, that like is worth like thinking about?
I think it's more so just, like, psychological change as well, isn't it? Like, yes, you have just given birth. Yes, you have grown a human. Yes, your body has changed. Like, be kind to yourself. Stop being a knob. Like, just stop being a knob to yourself. And sometimes you just need somebody to like tell you that, don't you? And just to be like, we move from a place of compassion. We don't try to lose weight from that place of hating ourselves and wanting to beat ourselves up and wanting to get back to pre-pregnancy body, because we have to recognize that you are going to be postpartum forever. Your hips have, widened, and you may have loose skin because you have grown a child in there. Like, what an amazing, fantastic thing to do, and stop being so hard on yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's such an important point to make. Like you have just done something so incredible, like, and
Hmm.
it is such a like, yeah, like it is such a privilege to be able to have done that. So yeah,
Hmm.
don't beat yourself up about it. Like if you are
Exactly.
not currently doing what you were doing before, like before baby came along, like that is all right.
Hmm.
One
Mm.
thing actually just to add on nutrition, and I would like to shout out my friend on this one because it's what she's done when she's just had a baby. Is that they batch cooked before baby came along, so that they had loads of like basically loads of bolognese ready to go,
Yeah.
so that in those first few weeks when they were like tired and overwhelmed, they'd got food and they knew exactly
Yeah.
what was going to be going on. And
Hmm.
that, and then they were also gifted um HelloFresh and Gusto, like as like that was their leaving present, their paternity and
Hmm.
maternity present. So like just little things like that will make the world of difference when it comes to just you staying sane. Because
Hmm.
you're not having to think about food because you've already made your food. You're not having to think about it because
Exactly.
it's arrived in the post or whatever.
Yeah.
So and even if that comes down to, okay, well, we bought 10 ready meals for the time that we just don't have the brain capacity to cook, do
Hmm.
that just to make it slightly easier for you to, like, in those first few weeks, but also to keep your nutrition quality high.
Hmm. Exactly. And if you've got good friends who can cook for you, then there you go.
Exactly, yeah, or, like, parents or whoever, like, at the end of
Yeah.
the day, I think the saying, like, "It takes a village" is very true.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, like, accept the help from the other villagers.
Mhm. 100%.
Um, Anything that we've missed? Anything that you wanna add?
I think that's pretty much covered everything, to be fair. I think the general consensus is just keep going, keep going through pregnancy, right? Keep showing up, keep thinking about this is not just about growing a human, but it's also about looking after you. Like, it's the thing of like put your own oxygen mask on, and always remember that you've got to fill your cup up before you fill other people's up, right? And how important that is, not just physically going to the gym, eating well, but also mentally for you as well. And during a time where hormones are wild and things like that. And I
Yeah.
think obviously don't have the expectation of you should be doing this at certain phases. Like, I can't do this. I'm not allowed to do that. But just recognize that moving at your own pace as well is fine for you.
Yeah, I think one thing to highlight as well is if you do experience anything like postnatal depression, speak to your doctor about it. Speak to your doctor about like what you need in terms of how to like get yourself like out of
Yeah.
that, because it is something that happens to a lot of women and it's not spoken about. I still don't think it's spoken about enough, and I think a lot of
Hmm.
people don't realize it's happening. Um,
Yeah.
Make sure that you do as much as you can to maintain your identity, because you are still a person. You might now be a mum, but you are still a person.
Hmm.
So like remember that part as well. That like you are still
Yeah.
you, that hasn't changed.
100%. And if you, like you say, if you need a coach through that time, or if you're struggling, if you want to just ask me any questions as well off the back of this, then you can come and find me over on Instagram and just pop me a message. Like, I'm happy to answer anything. So I am at thriving with Laura.
Perfect. That actually answered my next question, because I was gonna say, where can people find you? So it's like you read my mind.
Ta-da!
Um, well, Laura, thank you so much for coming on. This has been such an interesting episode, and hopefully everybody has found it useful. I know I have definitely found it, like, fascinating, so yeah, thank you very much for, thank you
Thank
for
you
coming
for
on.
having me. It's been great. It's been
It's
fun.
always great to have you back. But yeah, if you enjoyed this episode and you found it useful, you should definitely, one, drop the show a follow, but two, give it a 5-star review. Because Laura was excellent, so she deserves 5 stars for that.
Thanks.
But yeah, otherwise, have a fantastic rest of day, and I will catch you in the next one.